Ever since I saw the Spice Girls on the Rosie O'Donnell show in 1997, I have been an Anglophile. Growing up and into young adulthood, I dreamt of living in London, and I made that dream a reality. Coming from Toronto, I wanted to continue my career in advertising, but I wasn't sure how my skills, my background, my experience would translate to prospective employers here in the UK. And I was nervous. Signing up to moving to a new country with no job, no friends, no place to live, I was terrified. I had connected with a London-based recruiter before I moved here, and on my very first day, she told me she had interviews lined up, and I was ecstatic. And I said, how did you convince these agencies to meet me, a wild card, over someone with local experience? And she said, well, I told them you were a breath of fresh air. A breath of fresh air. A breath of fresh air is not tangible. It's not a scope of work. It's not a spreadsheet. A breath of fresh air is a feeling. I had spent my time worrying about what I looked like on paper, but it was a feeling that got me in the door, and it got me the job. So what if we approached our work this way, with the feeling first and the tangible second? So today I will explore this, how leading with your emotions connects you to the results that you want. Today I'm going to talk about the challenges that the industry is facing, how we can approach our work in creative operations to solve it, and how that can benefit you, your team, and your organization. So I've been lucky enough to work at some of the best agencies in London. Some might even say the world. McCann London, Adam and Eve DDB. Working at these great places, there's always something in common. To be number one. It's hyper-competitive. It's all about winning clients, making the best creative work that will get results for your clients, but also get you awards and be recognized by your industry peers. And while I love going to Cannes and sipping rosé, the reality is the Mad Men days are over. Clients don't want to spend big money on retainers anymore. They are going project-based and scrutinizing every penny. They're slashing their agency rosters, and also they're going in-house. As we heard earlier today, nearly 80% of the Association of National Advertisers now has an in-house agency, and that number has grown significantly in the past 5 years. Ad agencies need to keep finding innovative, creative ways to win and retain clients. But if you come from the in-house world, I can relate because that's my new life at BBC Creative. And we have our own sets of challenges in-house. We have to make sure we're finding the best talent, retaining the best talent. We want to make sure we're keeping up with the trends, we're staying current. And with all of these increased projects coming in, we have to handle all the workflow. Whichever way you look at it, the industry is in flux. And the only constant is change. But change is really stressful. Organizational change is stressful because it makes us worry about the future. We worry about our job security. We worry, do I have what it takes? Do I have the skills to go into the future? And with this competitive industry, there's heavier workloads, there's tighter deadlines. We are stressed, and stress is contagious. My husband, he went to a new GP recently, and the first thing the GP asked him was, what do you do for a living? And he said, well, I work in advertising. And GP goes, oh. He goes, make sure that you're being managed well. Make sure that you're being treated fairly. My husband goes, well, why are you telling me this, doctor? And the doctor goes, you'd be amazed how many people come in that work in advertising, that work in media, that are asking for advice on how to deal with emotional stress from domineering bosses. We are super stressed, and it's like an infectious disease. In the UK, 595,000 workers are suffering from work-related stress. That also includes anxiety and depression. 15.4 million workdays were lost due to work-related stress just last year. That means over half of work absences are due to work-related stress. So if someone's calling in sick, over half the time it's not the flu, it's not a cold, they're just stressed out. In creative operations, our jobs are to bring people together so our organizations can thrive. And we need to build strong, healthy, motivated teams so we can achieve this. In creative operations, we also have the privilege to speak with a whole load of different roles and personalities. We have creatives, designers, we have clients, finance, production, suppliers. We have to speak to all of them and know what their priorities are, what are their challenges, what are their technologies. But one size does not fit all. You can give the same message to different people, and they're going to take something different out of it. It was a few years ago at my old agency. It was really snowy outside, and the head of operations sent an all-staff email, and it said, if it's really snowy tomorrow, and you cannot get in, then you can work from home tomorrow. So the project management team, they do what they do best, organize. They're on the weather app, they're on the city mapper, they're swapping stories. How are we gonna get in tomorrow if it snows? Because for them, if it snows and you can't come in, it's because you really can't come in. As we're there swapping tips, figuring it out, a creative saunters by and looks up and says, hey guys, isn't it great we can just all work from home tomorrow? Typical. You can give the same message to different people and you will get something out of it that's different. How we communicate matters. It reflects on how people do their jobs, if they do their job, how effective they are at their job, and how they feel doing their job. Effective communication is the skill that will set us apart. And we can elevate that skill of effective communications by connecting with our emotions. Now, I talked a bit about the industry challenges and talked about how stressed we are. So now I'm going to talk about emotions. The best advertisers in the world, they don't sell a product. They sell a feeling. So back in the 60s, Coke, revolutionary ad campaign, Vietnam War, buy the world of Coke. It wasn't about cola. It was about bringing people together during a tough time. A locksmith isn't selling a piece of metal. They're selling a sense of security. And a furniture store is not selling some oak furniture on a sofa. They're selling you a feeling of comfort with your loved ones. And who does it better than Nike? They're not selling me Lycra and some rubber shoes. They're telling me I can achieve greatness. And I don't know if you've seen their ad that came out a couple weeks ago, but I literally cried. It was at work. These advertisers know that when you connect with people's emotions, you get results. You get results in terms of sales. You get results in terms of brand loyalty. Connecting with people's emotions will get results, and you can personalize that approach. And you can do that by using emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to identify and manage one's own emotions as well as the emotions of others. Emotional intelligence was a book, actually, in 1995, written by Daniel Goleman, and it was revolutionary because he said it's not all about being book smart and having a high IQ. How you manage your emotions, that's what separates the good from the great. Emotional intelligence, it starts at birth, but you can continue practicing throughout your life to better understand your emotions and also understand the emotions of those around you. There are 5 pillars of emotional intelligence, and I'm going to take you through each 5 today. And I'm going to tell you about my practice. But I would encourage you to think about you, your life, and what your practice could be. So the first pillar is self-awareness. Now, self-awareness is defined as the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions. Now, I think it's easy to say that most of us don't want to go near our emotions. We're taught to suppress them and keep them under wraps, especially at work. But I ask you to think about opening up to a new way of connecting with yourself. Because understanding and recognize your emotions is really the foundation of emotional intelligence. It's not about being in denial about your emotions. It's about taking a moment and checking in with your emotions. So my practice, every morning, I do a morning check-in. So I get into work, and I think, how do I feel? Do I feel positive, or do I feel negative? So I check in, maybe I feel positive because I got a free coffee at Pret, and I'm winning. Fabulous. I want to stay on that train and make sure that I can be positive with my team and what I'm doing. But most likely, maybe I'm feeling more negative because I have to take the Central line for 30 minutes, and it's hot, and it's gross, and I have to be under someone's armpit, and I love London, and I love the tube, but let's be honest, commuting is terrible for our mental health. So I'm feeling negative. I'm checking in with myself, and I'm saying, how do I feel? Well, I feel exasperated, I'm annoyed, I hate everybody right now. So while I'm being self-aware, I have to make an effort. I don't want to pass that on to someone else, because stress is contagious. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your emotions, and it is the foundation of emotional intelligence. The second pillar is self-regulation. So that is defined as the ability to express your emotions appropriately and manage your impulses. This is all about expressing yourself appropriately. It's about knowing the best time, place, and way to express your emotions. It's about not letting your emotions do the talking for you. So if we go back to my morning and I've just come off the Central line, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to turn on my emails. Well, guess what? I got a really stressful email. I'm trying to think of those ones that you get when you just feel the panic rising. You feel your shoulders go up. You feel your heart beating because you're so frustrated, scared, panicked, that kind of email. So I'm getting that email. I need to quickly start practicing self-regulation. How do I do that? Personally, I have a 5-minute rule. Every time I get an email that says, guess what, everything you delivered yesterday, do it over and you're not going to get money, every time I get that email, I take a 5-minute pause. Because I don't want my emotions to do the talking for me. I want to make sure that I am acting responsibly. I am creating solutions. I am not sending a very passive-aggressive email back saying, you're wrong, I'm right, even if it's true, because it's about choosing your battles. Self-regulation is ensuring that you are in control. You are not giving up to your impulses, because when you do, that's when you get into a position of potentially saying the wrong thing. Maybe you'll regret it. Maybe they'll take it the wrong way. Maybe that will affect a future relationship. Maybe that'll affect a current relationship, because people notice these things. People remember. Self-regulation is about expressing yourself appropriately, and it's about making sure that you don't let your emotions do the talking for you. The third pillar is social skills. Now, I define social skills as the ability to build relationships and connections with those around you. But for me, social skills, it's not just about going to the pub after work, even though that's nice, but it's more than that. It's about when you nod to someone in the corridor. It's about smiling to your colleague. All the little things, they count because people will remember. Now, in this climate we live in, there's a lot of noise we have, a lot of stuff. We have a million emails coming in. We've got text message, the WhatsApp, and the Instagram, and the Snapchat, and the whatever. We're getting so much information coming to us, and it's so easy to get into the habit of getting the information, okay, translating it, sending it to someone else. Now that's very efficient, but it's also not building any connection, is it? So when it comes to those conversations that require nuance, the conversations about creative, about persuasion, it's so important to have those face-to-face. But when we are sitting there face-to-face, we think we're listening, but actually only 10% of us are actually effective listeners. So you're sitting there and you're in the meeting and they're talking and you think you're listening, but maybe you're thinking about something that just happened 5 minutes ago. Or maybe you're thinking about that email that you just got, or what you need to do after. Or maybe you're thinking how your phone just buzzed in your pocket. Or maybe you're thinking, I know what they're saying, but I already have the answer, so I'm just waiting just to jump in so I can make sure I can solve that problem, I can give them that advice. We're listening with the intent of replying. But we really need to listen with the intent of understanding. And how do you do that? How do you practice that? You can do that by practicing active listening. So when you're sitting there in the meeting, practice active listening. Come into the meeting with an open mind and set your agenda aside, no matter what. Sit down and be present with the people in the room. Listen to the words that they're telling you, and listen to the silence as well. Look for those nonverbal cues. When you practice active listening, people are going to start trusting you. At the core of it, we just want to be heard. And when people feel like they're being heard and they're building that trust, then they're going to start opening up to you. And when you have people from creative, from finance, production, clients, when they're all opening up to you, that's when you get all of the vital information that you need to shape your workflow, to shape your process. Invest your time in people because it will make all the difference. The fourth pillar is empathy. Now, I define empathy as the ability to understand how others are feeling. We are all in our own little bubble in a way. We have the things we need to do. We have our hang-ups. We have our strengths. We have our weaknesses. We all think about what we have to do in our life. But how I practice empathy is getting out of my bubble and thinking about what do people have to go through in their bubble? What's it like on that side? So if I have something I need to do, if I need to ask for something from someone, I practice empathy by thinking of 3 things before I even go talk to them. I think about, is this a good time? We want everyone to respect our time. So we have to make sure we're respecting other people's time. Maybe they're not a morning person. Maybe they're eating. Maybe they've just come out of a meeting and they look a little flustered. Is this a good time to get what I want? The second thing I think about is what motivates them. I want to make sure that they're feeling the benefit of everything I need them to do. A very simple way of expressing a benefit is telling them how what they're doing actually is part of a big picture. Because when you ask someone to make the logo bigger for the 80th time, that might not feel motivating. But if they understand how it's part of a bigger picture, at least they feel like they're contributing to something worthy. You have to make sure that people feel motivated, that they feel there's a benefit to what they're doing. And the third thing is, I have to choose my words wisely. As I said, one size does not fit all. So I have to make sure that the words that I'm using, they're going to be able to quickly connect to what I want, and I also want them to feel positive about it. When you start practicing empathy and you're getting out of your bubble and you're getting into someone else's bubble, that's when you're going to start noticing that you're taking people in a journey. This is when the movement begins. The fifth pillar is motivation. Now, motivation is our personal drive to improve and achieve. It's said that people who are emotionally intelligent, they are motivated by more than just the paycheck. They have that inner passion within them. They want to have resilience. They have that optimism. It's the golden circle we heard about earlier. You don't do things for the what. You do things for the why. When you're motivated, you're going to start being a leader, and you're going to lead by example. And that's what motivation is all about. When you start doing this and you are leading by example, you're going to notice some changes. Newton's third law is for every action you put out, you get an equal and opposite reaction. So you're going to start noticing a ripple effect around you. People are going to take notice, and you're going to be feeling some benefits. Benefits to you, well, people are going to look up to you because they trust you, and you inspire them, and you motivate them. You're going to have better relationships and get what you want because you're an effective communicator. You're building networks. This will help with your influencing, your negotiation skills. And you're going to be calmer and less stressed doing it. You're going to be seen as a calming force to those around you, and you won't be as stressed because you are in control of your emotions. They don't control you anymore. This will also benefit your team. There'll be better communication overall. There's going to be less conflict, less drama. And the more time you save on dealing with politics, you can put into getting efficient and managing your projects. And overall, there'll be a renewed energy and a real sense of purpose in the face of challenges. The company and organization will also benefit because there'll be less stress leave, less medical leave. There'll be less turnover because people are going to enjoy where they work. And that's going to translate into them working harder, more profits, and more efficiencies. So the seemingly intangible emotional intelligence does translate into tangible results for you, for your team, and for your organization. The industry is changing rapidly. We have an issue with stress, but in creative operations, we do have the power to change the future. We can use emotional intelligence to create the right energy to lead us to where we want to go. So what is one thing that you can start doing today? Will you decide to do a morning check-in and decide not to pass your stress on to someone else? Will you exercise the 5-minute rule so that you don't act impulsively? Will you practice active listening? You can do that with the next conversation that you have. Will you practice empathy and change the way you motivate your team? You have the power to do this. And you can start today. You can be an effective communicator. You can lead by example. Invest your time in people and practice emotional intelligence. And with that, I'll leave you with one last thought. We are taught to suppress our emotions, keep them under wraps, especially at work. In an industry survey, 2 out of 3 of those questions said they had felt so stressed that they had felt they could not cope during points during their career. And 52% of them said they would worry about telling a manager because they didn't want to be viewed as weak. Well, this culture, it needs to change. It needs to change so we can handle the increasing stresses, the pressures, the competition that our industry is facing. When you look at the word emotion, it comes from Latin, the Latin emovere, and that means motion, emotion. It's in the word. You tap into your emotions and you can move people into motion. You can get the results that you want. You can inspire others to achieve more. You can use the powerful tool of emotional intelligence to push creative output, to motivate your team, and to connect with your clients, your colleagues, your customer, and your audience. Thank you.